Welcome to Grace in the Grind, where we're here to tell the inspiring stories behind some of the most successful entrepreneurs. And today on the show, we have Devin Schubert. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jim, thank you so much for having me. This is an honor to be a part of this and what you are doing here and the transformation you're helping for entrepreneurs.
Man, I appreciate that as well. So, for the listener, take the next 60 to 90 seconds and let us know what you do and who you are.
Yeah, so my name's Devin Schubert. I have built a brand on being the man in orange. Jim, one time I showed up to a podcast and I didn't have on my orange jacket, and they're like, "Are you feeling okay?" It just showed that people resonate. And a thing that I've done and God's allowed me to be able to do is to be able to recognize that when you have something of orange, for me, it's the brand of orange. It is all about who I am as a person, not just a reflection of what does like an orange thing. So I'll get things mailed to me all the time with my name on it, with orange. And it's really just created me as a brand of a coach, of a speaker, of a reality TV show, a winner, and all these types of accolades. But ultimately, my number one thing that God has done in my life is help me to be an amazing father to 3 adopted children. And I've dedicated my life to being the best father that I can.
That's beautiful, man, especially because you adopted them. That's a beautiful story in itself. And there may be a portion of this where we dive into that. But before then, so I want to jump in. I love the man in orange. It
Mhm.
reminds me of my another friend, Lori, who is like always in pink. Like it's amazing to connect. Do you find that you're attracted to orange? I'm a personality guy. I'm a disc personality consultant. And one of the styles of disc is the color wheel. Orange
Yeah.
being high I, being out there, being very extroverted. Do you find that it matches your personality or you just like the color orange? Like, how did this come to be?
I definitely match the orange personality for sure. I'm definitely outgoing and just loving with people, like to be the life of the party, but
Mhm.
also am able to stand behind the scenes and be able to serve when that is my role. For me, I'm trying to come up with just this creative story of how orange came about to really draw in the crowd. My high school colors were orange and it just stuck. I
I
know
love
it's
it.
really lame. It's really lame, but
Nah, man, it's not lame. Listen, I love purple and my high school colors were purple and gold. So I get it. I totally get it. Dude, that's awesome. Let's unpack this. So, like my audience is entrepreneurs, and most of us would probably say we've all been speakers, and that's pretty generic in the entrepreneur space. But you came up and said, I'm a reality show winner. What is that? And what does that look like?
yeah, my first year of diving in full time into coaching, and it was after I had a near death experience with one of my sons, and I got an offer to be able to join this reality TV show, and there was 100,000 applicants. And to be completely honest, I didn't even apply. It was somebody on my team that saw the ad and applied for me. And then I got this interview of, hey, you've been chosen to interview, go on to the next step of this reality TV
Mhm.
show. And it's for the number one entrepreneur startup in the nation.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, "Oh, okay, then talk about intimidating, not at all." And so I went through the process and I was one of 40 people to be selected on this reality TV show and to be one of those top 40 startups in the nation for that season.
Wow. So I want to hit down in some little thing. I'll go back to the reality show thing in a minute because I find that fascinating and I'm sure we can unpack all the feels. What does it feel to have to deal with? Am I good enough to do this and all those things? We can unpack that in a second. So let's put a pin. But you said something so fast that I'm like, no, I'm not. We're not going to miss this. I had a near death experience with my adopted son before I became a coach.
Mm.
Let's go back to that because that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the key area. As coaches, as entrepreneurs, we always need to have a why behind what we're doing. And if it's not big enough, you're not really going to be successful outwardly and inwardly. And for me, I literally gave up everything. Like I said, the 3 adopted kids, 2 boys from foster care. And one of them has some pretty severe mental health and trauma and prior abuse issues before we had
Mm.
adopted him at 2 and 1. And 7, it'd be 9 years ago now. My ex-wife and I went through a pretty nasty divorce. She decided to be with her boss instead of me and left everything basically for him. And I stuck with the house. I had the house and she took everything in it, had 50-50 with the kids. And 2 years after that, she kicked our son out of the house. And so
Oh,
I took him
no.
on full time. He got so aggressive. He got a lot of just different sexualized behaviors as he started hitting 10, 11, 12 years old. And I ended up having to step away from ministry. I stepped away from my business. I was a social worker at the time. I stepped away from all of that. And I moved 3.5 hours away because that's what I felt like the Lord was calling me to do.
Mm,
And from all that, I ended up having restraint holds basically every day,
right.
and ended up taking him to the hospital after a restraint hold. And I found myself in the hospital bed. And I woke up and I was shaking convulsively. And they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And they ended up diagnosing me with what's called trauma shock, where my brain and my nervous system stopped communicating
Oh,
because
wow.
of all the trauma over the last 3 years of me and him living by ourselves and losing everything. I spent close to 100 grand trying to get help, but nobody would help us. And so
Mm.
here I was lying on the bed, and they gave me 3 months left to live.
Oh,
And
wow.
dude, they wanted me at this point to now go and live in a treatment facility so I could have 24/7 care. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I've spent 5 years fighting the courts to get help for my son. And now you want to put me into a treatment facility? Not going. I am not doing that. And so I went to go stay with some friends. And I was close to my other two kids there. And I was lying in the bed, and I was, dude, to be completely honest, like, I was just done. My son was in a shelter. He was getting the help that he needed. My other kids were getting the help that they needed with their mom. I had no business, no ministry, nothing left. And so I asked God just to take me home. I got nothing left.
Mm.
And it was in the middle of the night, and the darkness of the room was just so overwhelming. And all of a sudden, this peace came over me. Like, I knew that life was going to be okay. And from the edge of my bed, the foot of my bed, came this like silhouette. And
Mm.
it came around the edge of my bed to the head, and it was Jesus. And he
Wow.
said, it's not time for you to come yet, but you have a story to tell, and you're going to share your story with the nations. And I
Mm.
was like, oh man, that okay. And then he said this word, Jim, he said this word. He said, that word "but" means that everything that you think is about ready to be so awesome.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, it's not. He said, but you're going to go through the process. And I was like, can't we just have one of these like happening miracle
What is that?
things?
What is that TikTok? Can we skip to the good part? Let's just get down there.
Yeah. And so he told me, Devin, the number of people that you can help by going through the process is going to be significantly more than the number of people if you are just instantly miraculously healed. And it wasn't until this last year, that actually this last 8 months, that he began to unpack another thing that he said that I didn't really understand at the time. And he said, you left the 99 to save the one. And that was my son. And now I'm going to give you the 99 to go and share your stories with the nations. And so I just thought like that was me going and sharing my story. But now what he's revealing to me is that he said, I'm going to give you the 99 to go and share your stories to the nations. And so he gave me a commission to go to the nations and bring 99, a number. And for me, now he said that's 1 million people to go and share
Wow.
stories across social media to the nations. If I could tell him no, I would, but I don't
Wow.
want.
Dude, that's wow. That's all you can say to that. Yeah, I was dying and then Jesus showed up and now I'm like healed and out to the nations. Like, I absolutely love that. So let's dig into a little bit deeper because I really connect to your story in many ways. I'm a former pastor. I
Mm,
worked in the school system as a behavioral specialist with special
mm.
needs and mental health students. And my wife is diagnosed with 4 mental illnesses. I get that. How did you navigate the emotion behind that before your experience with Jesus? There had to be a lot of big feels and a lot of challenges.
Yeah, when it comes to understanding what the church understands as mental health, what the church understands as trauma, I had so many people that just, let's do more deliverance. Let's
Right.
do more inner healing. Let's just pray it out. Stop giving him medication. I said,
I heard all that too. Yeah.
he can go to your house for 1 day with no medication, and hey, like, have at it, pray. Like, I'm just telling you, like, it's not that it's a lack of prayer or lack of faith. And so I had a lot of church hurt. Like, there was a lot of
Right.
people that disowned us. When I moved 3.5 hours away, I had a church family, but it's really different for me to tell you a story of my life, of what's going on, than to actually be a part of my life and experience what's going on.
Facts.
Because when we were around those people, they were like, whoa, don't know what to advise you. I don't know how to help. Don't know what to do. And so then they just slowly backed away, and it felt so lonely.
Yeah, I connected that a lot. My wife and I, like, we've been in our church as former pastor and stuff. And when she was diagnosed, and then later I was diagnosed with complex PTSD from all my stuff growing up. And we would tell people if we had cancer, we'd have lines out the door of people who wanted to pray for us and give us meals or whatever. But because we had mental health challenges and I have physical health challenges, nobody showed up. And it was like the disparity of that. So I feel that. So then this comes in. How did you deal with that intense loneliness and still go on mission?
Yeah. When I went through the divorce, one of the things that the Lord had told me is that I love your kids more than you do. And I know that you don't understand that, but I do. And then when my son came and lived with me full time, he told me this. He said, your one and only assignment is to be a father. And so I had this, all I can say is through this whole journey, he's deposited the true, authentic father's heart inside of me. Because if you would to be around my son during those times, people told me just to drop him off at the police station and never come back. That's how intense it was. But like I had this grace on my life. And even when he's been in treatment now for the last 3.5 years, I have this grace on my life to be like, I know that I gave everything I had for him. And so my role, my assignment is to be the best father that God has called me to. And for me, that's being a reflection. It's being a reflection of the Father to me, to him, and to other people. And so how to stay on mission during that was to be able to see what the end result. I'm sure you heard this, and the listeners, you guys will understand this. You're going through a Job season.
I've heard that a couple of times. Yep.
Good gosh. And I just got tired, and I said, Lord, give me the interpretation of what that means. And he said, the first time it was, look at the end result. The Job season is to get to the end result, which was a double blessing. Awesome. Cool. I can do that. The second time when I was going through it with my son, it was, I want you to see the emotional stability that Job had in who I am to him. And I was like, wow. And I believe that's how Job stayed so firm, even though his emotions wavered and the normal human responses, but his faith didn't. And so for me, it was like, okay, God, you called me to be a father. You called me to move, to do this thing. You promised you would help. I'm standing on that. And so no matter what life throws at me, no matter what the enemy tries to bring, you're going to make this work. And so I would literally be telling myself stories of what God was going to do. You brought me through the divorce. You're going to bring me through this. And one of the most inspirational things was every single day I would be listening to Eric Thomas. Those motivational things, those I am statements, the hoorahs that I needed to just make it another day. And those stories that I would tell myself are now the stories that I get to be able to help other people be able to share. And this last year, I got to actually speak on stage with Eric Thomas.
Oh, wow.
Like, talk about an amazing, like, touch of God to just be like, hey, Devin, I still see you. And I remember just crying when I got asked the very last minute. And I was like, you don't even know that you helped save my life through these circumstances. And that's why I do what I do.
Wow.
That is exactly why I want to do what I get to do.
Talk about a full circle moment. Good gracious, man. Oh my gosh, that is powerful. Why coaching though? God shows up at the end of your bed saying, oh, you're going to go to the nations and speak. And your response is, all right, I'll coach. That's not your response at the time, but so why coaching?
Yeah. Again, it comes back to my calling on my life to be a father. And it doesn't do any good to share a story if you have nothing for people to leave with. And when it comes to speaking, when it comes to coaching, you got to, even Jesus had an offer. You know, he drew in crowds from all over the place. And what did he do? He gave an offer. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. And so he brought people in to the story and he gave them an action to be able to go and do with. And so for me, it was being able to multiply the disciples, the people that would come alongside of me, the people who would come from underneath and rise up above me, to be able to create a life of abundance. One of the things that Jesus told me during that interaction is he said, I'm anointing you with a Gravedigger. And I was
Mm.
like, bro, like that ain't cool. I don't want that. And the
Very cool.
3 years prior to that, or for the last 3 years, I had been given 3 prophetic words, and from stage, from these high people, and they said, I feel like God is saying you're a gravedigger. What does that mean anything to you? No, it doesn't. I'm not going to be a monster truck and whatever. I'm not going to dig people up out of the grave.
Right.
That's weird. And so Jesus said, he said, I'm giving you the Gravedigger Anointing. And he said, just like I raised Lazarus from the dead, so will you raise people from the dead in their emotional, psychological, mental health, their traumas. You will pull those out, their stories, and you will hold it in front of them. You will take them out of the grave of hopelessness and loneliness, and you'll show them life and life abundantly.
Wow.
Like, wow. And so everywhere that I go, I got on my watch, I got Gravedigger on there to just remember what Jesus called me. Because whether we're a coach, whether we're a stay-at-home mom, no matter who we are, our identity in God is the most important thing that we can hold on to be able to get us to the next level and into the next day. And the Lord told me when I went through my divorce, he said, because I was like, I'm never going to do ministry again, Jim. I'm never going to do ministry. I can't be a pastor. I can't, because I got this D word in front of my name and it's not Devin. And the Lord said this very important thing. He said, you don't get your identity from the creation. You get your identity from the Creator. I was like,
yeah, dude. So that's wow. Because the Lord had taken me out of pastoring 2017, and it was a circumstance where it was like, if I didn't leave, my wife wouldn't have made it. So she actually spent 6 months in the hospital because of mental health conditions and stuff. And then the Lord really shifted and said, hey, you are going to the marketplace as a minister in the marketplace. And I was like, wow. Okay, so we'll unpack that. So hearing like things like when you say gravedigger, and it's, dude, God, you got jokes, man. Like you got like real jokes. And then sure enough, later it's explained. I love that. So here's the thing. You've had such an incredible experience. You've got obviously you went through the trauma shock. You have 3 months to live. Huge experience with Jesus, navigating the relationship with your son, navigating that you were a minister, you were a social worker, all of this stuff. Now you're a coach, international speaker. Like, so this becomes, I think this has 2 questions attached to it. Number 1, how do you navigate compassion fatigue? Let's start there.
When I was on the reality TV show, one of the things that they taught us, his name was Wes Bergman. He's known as the reality star kid. And he said this, he said, when I'm on camera, don't listen to a single thing that I say. But when I'm off camera and the cameras aren't rolling, I am the number one entrepreneur that you want to listen to. And I've been told how to be able to shut off your feelings and how to be able to step on the stage, but it never clicked. But that moment, it clicked for me of I can walk on the stage and have the world being torn apart around me. And I can put on this orange jacket and nothing can stop me. Because I'm able to block out everything else that's going on in the world. And I'm able to compartmentalize that. And so it's been that same form. And I believe that social work actually helped me because as social workers, man, compassion fatigue is the number one thing that takes people out.
Right.
And I'm sure it's the same thing with pastors and things like that as well. And so I recognize that in my younger years, I care about everybody and I just love people and I will give everything. But if I'm not able to take care of myself first and to teach the people that I'm serving and that I'm helping of what it means for me to be healthy in order to be healthy for them, it comes around full circle to, man, dude, for a while, I thought I was like turning cold hearted to where people would come to me and be like, oh man, did you hear about the drug baby downtown? I'm like, do you realize that's every day of my life? I hear and see and remove kids from these situations. You just don't hear about it. It wasn't me becoming cold-hearted. It was me being able to compartmentalize and say, you know what? I can handle that here during this time and I can love them, but I'm not going to bring it home. I'm not going to let it quote unquote infect my entire body. And so being able to put that into a room and say, you know what? When I'm with that person, I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to help them, support them. But the rest of the time, I'm not going to let it infect me.
So then this brings back to the second thing. So that's number 1. That's awesome. And it really creates a lot of more questions, what I think may have to be a further conversation post this episode. But like, how do you navigate now? You dealt with the loneliness, you've dealt with a lot of stuff, trusting people enough to be back in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely takes a lot of healing. It's taken a lot of healing. And here's one thing that I've really stepped into fully is that I've made mistakes and that somebody else gave me a shot. And just because I've been hurt by the church, I've been hurt by leaders, I've been hurt by some big name leaders. I've been in green rooms that I don't like green rooms. Just don't like nothing but gossip and bad things happen in there. But every single person deserves a chance. Every person deserves a piece of my heart and an opportunity to have that trust, to have that opportunity to be grown and to be able to be helped. And if they're not for me, guess what? That's okay. There's billions of people on the earth, and somebody else can come along and be able to help them. I would say one of the biggest things that I've learned is to be able to allow people to walk away, not to hold on like they're my possession. No, awesome. You met a new coach? Awesome. Because you know what? They're probably able to speak to them in a different way than what I would be able to. And as kingdom entrepreneurs, there should be no competition in the kingdom. We should be here to support and help each other and to be able to collaborate to see the kingdom advance.
Wow. So do you find, this is going to be another question. So do you find that you give people trust that they can lose, or do they have to earn your trust?
I would say that pretty much everybody starts out with they get the trust that they deserve. They get that. If they want to be able to, so I believe the circle of influence. People get to get into different circles. So everybody starts at a certain circle. You definitely don't start inside of my inner circle whatsoever. But as we begin to have conversations, and some people just like to have flaky conversations about the weather and whatever, and that's fine. You're just going to stay on the outside circle because I can't handle those types of conversations very long. And so it's the more conversations we get to have, the deeper we either get or the deeper we don't get. And so then they get to earn that trust more of what does it look like? If I give referrals to people know, okay, this is a high quality person because I have that character and integrity when I refer somebody to say my name is attached to this. And for me, that's huge. Not that I don't make mistakes and that people don't slither their way in. It happens and there's grace for that. But people definitely, as they grow into that inner circle, definitely need to earn that.
Awesome. So then to you, the listener, let's take a second here, because as we start landing the plane of this particular episode, to the listener, you will have all the things that are mentioned will be mentioned in the show notes. That it makes it so much easier for you to access whatever links we may provide. And with that being said, how do people find you?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that in order to build your influence out, in order to build out your business, you should at least have one platform that you're really active on and then have the other one. So for me, that's Facebook. My Facebook profile is where you can definitely find me. I've also put together a very special book for me to be able to share with people, and it's called Creating Better Stories. Revelation 12:11 talks to us about the power of overcoming by sharing our testimonies, sharing our stories. And so I put together a framework on how to be able to tell stories better. And so it's createbetterstories.com, and you can head there and you can be able to grab that.
And so to the listener, make sure you go ahead and grab that. It's a free gift to you from our guests. We want to make sure you connect. We want to make sure you get all the tools that you need in order to be successful. We'll also make sure that's linked, as well as the socials to connect with them on social media. With that being said, we are at the part of the episode, we're at #WisdomBomb. And this, for you listeners, if you're a new listener, that is where we give you a portable truth that you can use in your life today. If you've been a long-term listener, thank you for being a long-term listener, this section. And if you go to Facebook, #WisdomBomb, you'll see all the ones I've been doing since about 2019. Devin, what's a wisdom bomb that you want to share with people?
Yeah, I want to leave you guys with this. Jesus told me that your legacy is something that you leave behind that people can grab. And the one thing that people struggle with is they take their legacy to the grave with them and expect somebody else to do something with it. And so Jesus said this, your legacy starts right now. And if you don't take action to tell your story, to share your wisdom, unfortunately, it's going to go to the grave with you.
That's powerful. And when you may not have a grave digger to come dig it back up.
That's right.
That's it. First and foremost, thank you for just a powerful conversation today and a very inspirational conversation, Devin. So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great.
And to you, the listener, we're so appreciative of you being here with us as well. Make sure you go grab that free gift to you. Everything will be in the show notes. And with that being said, you have been listening to Grace in the Grind, where we're here to inspire you, but with the stories behind success of some of the most successful entrepreneurs out there. And go ahead and wherever channel you're listening to, if you would do me a favor, rate and review. And we'll see you on an episode coming soon.
This has been Grace in the Grind. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Lead with Jim. Take care of yourself. And we'll see you next time on Grace in the Grind.